Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening, Dan. How are you doing?
Good evening. Thank you. Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day. And we have the Roland Garros men's singles preview. The games have already started. The matches have started. And there was at least one where I had predicted this guy to go to the pre-quarterfinal, and he was in a tough spot today. I mean, that was Shelton, who managed to win the five-setter. But getting down to the Roland Garros, which is the second major, the tennis world now turns its gaze to Paris from Melbourne. And you also have the traditional favorites like Alcaraz, who's defending his title, Sinner, who's coming back from the ban. You have Novak Djokovic, who recently completed his 100th win in singles titles that he won in Geneva yesterday, which I got to watch against Hubie Hurkacz, especially the last two sets I had. It was phenomenal. It seemed like the old Novak back in form. Then you got Zverev, who had the chance to win this against Alcaraz and lost that last year. And of course, there are a lot of other players who are in contention, including Americans as well. So let's quickly get to your initial analysis before, like we always do, we pick the top 16 and then we work our way down to the final. So you give your initial thoughts on this Open, and we'll get down to predicting the winner.
Yeah, so I think you did a nice recap at the top here of this podcast, just kind of breaking down the key stories. Like you said, we have a Sinner coming off of win at the Australian Open, and then he promptly, accepted the suspension afterwards. That was, agreed upon by his camp and the I forget what which was it WADA or yeah.
WADA.
Yeah, so so he finished serving his 3 month term, and we weren't sure, if it was going to be beneficial with the rest, or if lack of competition, might hurt him without the actual real time reps. But I think we got an answer to that last week or 2 weeks ago with the Rome Open, where he got to the final pretty easily and faced off against Alcaraz, Carlos in the final, and Carlos was the better man on that day. But Sinner seems like he certainly just picked up right where he left off back in January. When with getting the first leg of the Grand Slam this year. So that's one of the big stories. Obviously, seeing what Sinner has to offer. And then, like you mentioned, Carlos, he's defending his crown at the French Open, like you said, with a thrilling five-setter last year against Zverev. Carlos has been a little bit up and down, a little injured like usual the last few months, but after he emerged at Rome strong and like I said, beating Sinner, tough first set in that final, but then relatively easy second set. And I know you said you watched that match, and you said it was really impressive the way Alcaraz looked in that second set. I think beating him 6-1 or I believe 6-1 in the second set after a tiebreaker in the first. So obviously, Alcaraz, he's we'll see what he does on clay this year. And then the other stories, like you mentioned, I think the biggest story, really bigger than those two, is really seeing what Joker has, because Djokovic is with 24 titles, still wants that 25th. People are starting to, he really struggled. He struggled this year. He got to that one final at the Miami Open, I think, against Mensik, lost to the young, I think 19-year-old. Mensik. Djokovic looked pretty good in that Miami Open up until the final, and Mensik just got the better of him. It was a hot, humid, rain-delayed final, so maybe that played a toll. But since then, Djokovic has had many first round defeats in many of his tournaments this year. He's subsequently split up with decided to go I believe coachless in this tournament. I don't know if he's hired someone. I know him and Murray have split up, at least for this tournament. I'm sure they're still very good friends, but they just decided maybe it's best just for this tournament to kind of do their own thing and see how it goes. So I think really seeing what Djokovic has to offer is going to be a huge, the biggest story I think of this French Open. And then Zverev's always a story. He's still looking for his, I think, still looking for his first Grand Slam title. Believe it or not. We could fact check that, but I'm 90% certain on that one that the best, definitely the best player not to have won a Grand Slam, Zverev right now, and he's knocking on that door. I hope he gets one. He's really been around the last several years. The knock on him early in his career was that he always, just always would get upset in the second or third round of these Grand Slams. But for the last 4 or 5 years, he's been around, getting to many quarters and semis and a few finals too, and being so close to getting over the top, but not quite yet. Those are, I think, like you said, the big stories on the men's side. When you want, we can pick our Sweet 16 when you're ready to do that. If you want to talk about anything else beforehand, that's fine.
Yeah, one thing I did want to talk about was, I think we were both watching it today at the Roland Garros Stadium. They did like a tribute to Nadal. It was a great 45-minute tribute where you had, very interestingly, you had players like, obviously, the three other players that he's battled with Djokovic, Federer, and Murray. It was great to see them on the center court with Emilio Marismo, and then they kind of put the permanent, I would call it like a little stone kind of a thing on the center court, which says Rafa 14, I think 14 or something like that. That was actually pretty cool. And it was interesting to see Alcaraz actually wearing Merci Nadal t-shirt that many people were wearing, sitting in the stands with his coach. So I don't think he got the invite yet to the center court to share with Nadal, a fellow Spaniard. But that kind of really showed you how the three greats respect Nadal. They shared a nice moment together, a nice photo opportunity, and it's funniest part there is that there's only one more active player who's still playing, which is Djokovic, and the rest of them are all retired. But it was a good moment. I think I wanted to touch upon it. One of the greatest. Having 14 majors, no one could ever come close to that. I think we talked about this in a previous podcast. His Roland Garros record is 112 wins to 4 losses, which is just incredible in itself. And it's amazing that anybody who could win 14 French Open titles, it's most by both either male or female at a single Grand Slam moment. That's the tribute that they had for Nadal. Let's quickly get down to your top 16. So as normally what we do, let's talk about each of the brackets, each of the 4, and then maybe we can touch upon some key matches in each of those brackets. So we have the 4 ones. We have the Sinner quarter, Zverev, Fritz, and Alcaraz. So let's quickly go down to the Sinner one. So let's see, who do you have in the, I would say, the pre-quarterfinals, that's the top 16, and any other matches there that you see of importance?
Yeah, so let's see. In the round, I guess we'll call it, pre-quarterfinals, so the round of 16. Okay, so in the center top quarter, I've got Sinner and the young Frenchman who's been making a lot of noise this year, Fils, Arthur Fils. He's, I think, got to a few semis of a couple of the ATP 1000s, I believe, this year, if not one of the finals. So I got Sinner and Fils in that top half, and then under that, we talked about the young teenager, 19-year-old, I believe, Jack Mensik. Yeah, I got him getting through. He's what seed is? He's a 19 seed, but I think a lot of people will probably have him, in their mind seated higher than that with potential of making noise. So we got Mensik and Draper. Draper's been playing great tennis the last year and a half, couple of years, and he's been doing well on, I think, different surfaces. I guess maybe he's the strongest on the hard court, you could argue, but seems like his game is going to be pretty good on all 3 surfaces at this point. I think he got to the finals and beat Alcaraz at Indian Wells this year, which is, it's a hard court, but a slower hard court. So I got Mensik and Draper up there, and then moving on down, to the Zverev side. We have I have Zverev
But
and
before we get to the
yeah.
Zverev thing, I do think there are a couple of things I did want to call out in that Sinner bracket. I think Sinner, I mean, of course, he's going to win those things, but he could potentially play in the second round Gasquet,
Hmm.
another Frenchman who has a beautiful one-hander, which is a lore of the past. I mean, Federer had that. I think the only current player who has that one-handed backhand is, of course, two of them, Tsitsipas and I actually watched some of Musetti's match today where he hits this beautiful one-handed backhand, and that's where Gasquet. So that's a. I think this could be Gasquet's last foray into tennis or the Grand Slam. So this could be a good send off for a Frenchman. But in that bracket, looks like you have Sinner. You have Sinner and Arthur Fields or Rublev.
Fees. I have Arthur Fees
Okay.
beating Rublev.
So I
Yeah,
think that's where we differ. I do have Sinner and Rublev, and then you have Mensik and Draper.
correct.
But I do think that I'm going to, as Roddick calls him, Demon. I think I have Diminor beating Mensik, but Draper beating Hubie, who just lost to Novak yesterday. So I have Sinner, Rublev, Diminor, Draper. You have Sinner, Feast, Mensik, and Draper.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. And then let's quickly go down to the Zverev bracket. Who do you have going there?
Yeah, there we have Zverev, and I had to check actually. I just and then I have Serendulo moving through. He's the 18 seed. I had to double check that I had the right Serendulo because there's another one I just noticed in the other half of the draw. Another Serendulo from both Argentinians. So I don't know if they're related or brothers. We can stat check that one later. But this is the 18th seed Argentine Serendulo Francisco. So we got Zverev and Serendulo. So Serendulo would, in his previous round, I have him upsetting minor upset of Dimitrov. Um,
Yeah.
and then below that, I have let's see, I've got Medvedev. Who knows? He's been up and down the last few years. He hasn't won a title in a couple of years. Daniil Medvedev, and then Djokovic moving on to the round of 16. I think easily. He's got a pretty favorable draw. It looks like, although you never know. But looks like he's got a pretty good draw on his first first three matches. Really,
Yep.
he gets
Yeah. So in this one, you have Zverev, Serendulo, Medvedev.
yes.
Yep. And I think I have the same thing. So I think we're going there all. We think. I was almost thinking about picking Kaboli because Kaboli was the guy um, who recently won the tournament
Hmm.
in the Hamburg Open. So Kaboli won that tournament against Rublev. So but I have him losing to Zverev, and
Okay.
Zverev was the one who said he had lost this match, and I think he threw up like 37 times the night before. So I'm hoping Zverev um, can make it. He should be fine. This is a great opportunity for him. Hopefully that he can get to the pre-quarters and play Sorrentino. So I think we have the same thing there. All right, then let's get down to the Taylor Fritz bracket. Who do you have in the top four or the top 16?
Yeah, there are the top 16. We have no real, a lot of chalk here. We have, maybe not. We have Musetti, the 8th seed, moving on to the round of 16. And then under that, I've got, let's see here, slight upset. I guess he's unseeded, actually. I picked a player, an Argentine. I guess we're going with a lot of Argentines in this tournament. Sebastian Baez, upsetting Rune. I just feel like Rune, like I heard, I think maybe on the Roddick podcast, Rune beats a lot of good top 10 players he has over the years, but he can get upset with, quite easily. So I think I picked the upset here with Baez beating Rune in the third round. So Musetti and Baez moving on to this round of 16, and then below that I've got Korda. Korda would be knocking off Tiafo in the previous round, so I have Korda moving on, and I think we're gonna go with Fritz here then because I had Serendulo, but that's the wrong Serendulo, so we're gonna change that to Fritz moving on. So
Oh, Juan Manuel Cerundolo. There's another Cerundolo from Argentina.
yeah, that's what I was saying. He's a qualifier this one, so that's where I got
Mm.
tripped up. Yeah, he beat Mickelson, it looks like today, the young American Alex Mickelson. He beat him today, but relatively easy, 3-2 and 4. It looks like here. It shows on my
Mhm.
bracket.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep. I think Mickelson. I had Mickelson going on to face Taylor Fritz. So there goes my bracket.
so Mickelson lost there. So yeah, so Musetti, Baez, Korda, and Fritz. Those are my four. Who do you have in your top half there? And then Musetti.
Well, I think Rune just had a huge win, right? He won a tournament. Or Rune, or no, Casper Ruud
I
won,
think
but I
Rude
think
did. I think
Rune,
yeah.
yeah, but Rune actually had a pretty big win against. Was it against Alcaraz this year?
Yeah,
Earlier
he's had a
this year,
couple.
I
That's
think.
what they said. He can beat the top 10, but he'll often kind of lose to an unsuspected player once in a while.
Yeah, so I do have Musetti. Yeah, I saw him watch. I saw him play today, and initial the first set he struggled, but then the second and third set he won it pretty easily. So Musetti, I have playing Rune. I actually have Rune beating. I think I have like Tomasz Mahak. That's another Czech guy like
Mhm.
Mensik
Yep.
beating Baez, and then moving on to face Rune. So I have Musetti, Rune, and Big Four. I believe in Big Four beating Korda,
Oh, okay.
and then playing against Fritz. I think Tiafoe had a very good win today. He won in straight sets, so pretty impressed with the way he played today. And I mean, it was not easy, but he won the match in straight sets, which is very important. So, all right, then let's get down to the last one, which is the Alcaraz bracket. What do you see there?
So yeah, this might be the toughest. Well, it's hard to say which is the toughest quarter. When they break down, I know March Madness brackets, they say which bracket is the toughest. This might have your of the final 16. I think this might have the strongest field. So I've got Rude and Tommy Paul moving on. Tommy Paul's been playing great all season long. I feel like he's had a lot of good showings. I think he's won forget if he's won a tournament. I feel like he has won a tournament, or at least he's got to a couple finals. And so I have Rude, Paul, Tsitsipas, and Alcaraz over here.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I was just thinking about it. I don't think Tommy Paul won any tournament. I think he did go to the semifinals in Rome. So I don't know if he won a title, but so here I have Rude and then Tommy Paul. That's the matchup, and then I almost had to sweat this one today with Shelton winning in 5 sets. Um, and Shelton, I have Shelton beating Tsitsipas. Shelton actually beat Sonego, the Italian, in 5 sets. He was actually down 2 sets to 1 and won it today somehow. So a long one, but I have him beating Tsitsipas. And of course, Shelton playing Alcaraz. So I have Rude, Tommy Paul, Shelton, Alcaraz.
Okay.
So the way I see it is that I do see Zverev, Cerundolo, Medvedev, Novak. I think we all agree there. Then Ruud, Tommy Paul. You have Tsitsipas and Alcaraz.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have Fritz, Tiafoe, Rune, Musetti, and you have Musetti, Baez,
Baez, right? Mercedes Baez, Corda, and Fritz.
Korda, and Fritz. And then the last one you have Sinner and Feast, and then Mensik and Draper. And I have Sinner and Rublev, Divinor and Draper. So let's go back to the Sinner bracket and see who do you have moving on to the quarterfinals. And I think I know who it is, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sinner's going to be breezing through to the quarters. So I got Sinner and Draper both winning. I think Draper's just been playing, like I said, really good tennis the last year and a half. Even though this probably isn't his best surface, I still think his serves is going to be too tough. He's really improved the last year and a half. So Sinner and Draper, and then below that, I have Zverev beating Cerundolo and Joker moving on. Yeah, kind of chalk like here, but those are my. I think the men's tournaments lately have been a lot of chalk relative to the ladies brackets. Where there's a lot more parity and unknowns. So that's what.
Yep,
How about you?
yep. I think it's a Sinner, Draper, Zverev, and Novak.
Yep.
That's what I have too.
Okay.
I almost wanted to pick Medvedev, but good that I actually waited for the Djokovic match against Harkax because I did see Djokovic play yesterday,
Uh-huh.
and he's moving very well. I mean, and like I said, just had a crowning achievement yesterday in Geneva. A very interesting stat there. He beat Hubie Hurkacz. That was his 100th title. And that puts him with what? Only two other players have 100 titles. That's, of course, Federer, and the other one is?
Oh, the Connors, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Connor. Yes. And the interesting trivia there is that he beat Hubie Hurkacz for his 100th title. And the person he beat for the first title is Nicolas Massou, apparently, who that was his first title, Djokovic's. And that he was basically Hurkacz's coach.
Oh,
Kind of a
wow.
pretty cool trivia. I think we need to, you should check
No,
it.
that's a good one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get down to the Fritz bracket here.
So yeah, on the Fritz side, I've got Musetti moving on. He's been, he's got solid. I remember he got to the semis last year, I think, at Wimbledon, if I'm not mistaken. I believe, or either the quarters or semis at Wimbledon against Djokovic. They had a big match last year that was solid. Musetti looked great. And then I have actually Korda knocking off Fritz. I don't show how much faith in Fritz when it comes to playing on clay still. So I think maybe this. I mean, we're waiting for Korda to have his breakthrough moment. Korda. I don't believe he's reached a quarter yet of a major. So we're kind of waiting for his big breakthrough, and so I'm going to go with Korda over Fritz here. So Musetti and Korda, and then on the bottom half, I'm going to go with Ruud over Paul. It's going to be a tightly contested match, but Ruud has got a great track record at the French, reaching 2 French Open finals. This is his best surface, as I mentioned earlier. So going to have Ruud moving on, and then Carlos, and then Alcaraz easily against Tsitsipas, I believe. So Musetti, Korda, Ruud, and Alcaraz.
Wow, you have Korda there.
Yeah.
You have what? Oh, Ruud. You have Ruud. Okay, so that's where we differ. I have Alcaraz, Paul,
Okay.
Fritz, and Musetti. So this is where we have two different than mine here.
Yes.
So, okay. So let's quickly go down to. So you have Sinner versus Draper, Zverev versus Novak, Musetti versus Fritz for me, Paul versus Alcaraz, and you have Alcaraz versus Korda. No, Alcaraz versus
Alcaraz
Ruud,
versus Ruud. Yes.
and then
Yes. Yeah.
Musetti,
Against Korda.
Musetti
Against
against
Korda.
Korda,
Yeah.
and then Zverev. Okay, we saw that's the same thing. So quickly go down to head-to-heads. So who do you think in going back to Sinner and Draper?
So I bet we're going to agree on all these picks. So I have Sinner over Draper. I don't think it'll be much of a struggle. I mean, it's going to be probably a couple tie-break sets because Draper, holds serve most of the time. Tough to break him. Sinner, I think he's going to prevail. I think in like 4 hard-fought sets, and then I'm going to go with Joker. I mean, that stuff. My heart's still with Joker. Really want him to win. Obviously, I guess the real question mark we got to talk about with Joker still is it's just the physicality. With his it's caught up with him, father time, as they say. The last couple of years, we see him. Just when it gets to these Grand Slams, they're not 2 out of 3s, and there's 7 matches, 2 to play, in every couple of days. And his body the last few years, whether it was the pulled, I think, the pulled hamstring or quad in Australia, or last year with the knee injury at the French, where he had to withdraw. So it's more. I don't think it's an issue whether he can move out there or his or his skill. It's just, can his body hold up now for 2 weeks in 3 out of 5 matches against tough opponents, one after the other. So that's the question mark. I'm still going to go with Joker here over Zverev, but it's a tough one. It's tough. I wouldn't put my mortgage.
Interesting. Yeah, interestingly, when I looked at the records here, I was actually looking at the records of each of these players against each other, at least in my end of this. Looks like Sinner and Draper, they've not played each other in 2025 all year. It's you would think that they would play each other, but I think it seems like Draper and Alcaraz have actually played each other a couple of times. But so Sinner and Draper, I think Sinner coming off, the 90-day ban, breezed through. I mean, the way he destroyed Ruud prior to facing Alcaraz.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, you don't see that many times. I think you and I were talking about the way he just destroyed them
1-1, right?
6-0,
Yeah.
1, and then losing to Alcaraz in the final. So he thought it was a very successful tournament for him. He hasn't played a single tournament. Went on to the final. So Sinner versus Draper. Draper's playing unbelievable, and it's not his favorite surface, but and he's been quite good. But I do think that I have to give the edge to Sinner. So I have Sinner moving on as well. But when it comes to Zverev and Novak, I should know better not to bet against Novak. But I watched him play yesterday, and he looked solid. And my only concern with Zverev was that in the Hamburg Open, he was sick, but I hope he recovers, and I think he'll be fine before he plays. So, and he was in the final last year. So I'm actually picking against Novak uh, here. So it's going to be a Sinner and Zverev for me in the semifinals. And then who do you have in the other one here?
And then the other one, let's see, where I had Musetti against Korda, you have Musetti against Fritz, I believe, right? Yeah, so I got Musetti moving on there. I just think if whether it's Korda or Fritz, I think it's going to be Musetti. He's top 10 player in the world now. He's played against the big guys and held his own against them. So I think Musetti moving on, and then you can't pick against Carlos. So Alcaraz moving on against Ruud. I think he'll beat him relatively easily. So Musetti and Alcaraz moving on.
Okay. I do have Fritz moving on against Musetti.
Okay.
And going with the American. And then Alcaraz moving against Paul. I mean, I do have Paul instead of Ruud in your case. So we both, okay. We have Sinner and Alcaraz for sure. And then you have Joker instead of Zverev. And then you have Musetti instead of Fritz. It's very interesting that many times our top four usually are aligned, but I think this time we're going a little bit. And then, of course, who do you have in the final?
Yeah, and then in the final, we have 1-2. Sinner and Alcaraz. Hopefully, they both make it. That'll be a must-see TV watch, or a spoiler alert if we watch it a few hours after, depending on our schedules. But that's going to be hopefully must-see TV for that match.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sinner and Alcaraz has been interesting, and I have both of them moving on to the final. And interestingly, Sinner is 0-4 against Alcaraz in the last four matches, which I just can't. Again, this is one of those things I can't fathom. I mean, especially even when the hypes of Novak versus Federer, Novak versus Nadal, I don't know if either of these players had like a four-game losing streak. I mean, they usually try to get one each of them. And I don't know if it's mental at this point or if it's something else. But, we know that Sinner is definitely one of the best in the hard court. But when it comes to clay court, Alcaraz has this one step ahead of him. But it won't be easy. Like I said, I mean, it was even the great match, the Rome Open. But the first set, Sinner had like actually had like two set points which he didn't close. Goes to obviously the tiebreaker. Carlos jumps on and then goes to a 3-0 lead, and then eventually wins it 7-5. In the second set, it looked like Sinner just completely had zero answers to Alcaraz. And then who do you have winning it all?
God, I was going to pick Sinner, but I think just listening to you right now, you sold me on Alcaraz. I think with the recency bias, as they say, the last four times. God, it's a tough one, but Alcaraz on clay. I guess it's hard to pick against him on those. On the clay, and then I guess grass at the next major too. I think he's won two in a row at Wimbledon. So I'm going to go Alcaraz in the final here to make it 5 in a row over Sinner and his and repeat at the at Roland Garros.
Yeah, so it could either be Alcaraz at 5 and Sinner at 3, or it could be 4-all if Sinner can win it. But I'm also picking Alcaraz this time as well. So we both have Alcaraz winning the Roland Garros. Again, it's unbelievable that he can do it again. This is his favorite surface. I think Wimbledon probably is. He's already had 2 championships at Wimbledon, so winning this would be adding. He'll get to that 5, gets him closer to some of the greats. But never know. I mean, I think Sinner, he's had the taste of clay, slightly different clay than what he's used to in Rome. But it's also going to be different. Sinner is going to face some tough crowd. It's not the Rome crowd he's going to be used to. So the French crowd will give it to him right from the get go. It won't be that easy, especially when he's going to be playing against Gasquet. I mean, I think Sinner's got talent to just beat Gasquet, but I mean, I don't think it'll be easy, but he'll get through that. So that's where we are. So typically we pick also a dark horse. Who do you think in this group? And it could be anything outside of the top five that could potentially win this.
Tough one. I mean, let's see here. Let me take a quick look at my Sweet 16 picks and take one of those guys that I had losing right now.
Yep. That's where I was thinking.
Man, that's a tough one. I mean, maybe you go with Tommy Paul or something. I mean, he'd have to beat Alcaraz, but like I said, Paul, he got to the semis at Rome. He's been playing pretty good tennis this year. So if I had to go with someone, maybe what's Paul's seed? He's number 12 ranked. Top American, I guess, right now. Or Fritz would be the top American, but second top American. So yeah, I'm gonna go Tommy Paul as maybe my dark horse outside the top five.
Yeah, and I'm going to pick. Only reason being that this guy has the talent. I was actually going to think about Diminor, but Diminor is another guy who comes to the quarterfinals or one of those semifinals and loses. So I'm actually going to go pick Musetti as my dark horse to win it all. I think it's a very safe pick. He's another Italian guy who's been playing out of the world. I think, if not mistaken, Musetti is ranked number 8.
Yeah,
so
it's top 10.
Be in the top
Yeah.
10. There you go. Yeah, top 10. Okay. All right, that's where we are. So, a couple of say trivias. I think. Let me see. How many Americans have won Roland Garros this century?
How many Americans have won this century? For the men's, we're talking about the men's draw, huh? Men's draw. This century, so this, wow. My one guess would be one, possibly. I'm trying to think back. Maybe Agassi, and that's it.
No American has
Zero.
won.
Okay, so if anything, it'd be Agassi, but that probably was late '90s, then mid to late '90s.
Yeah. And then you should know this one. Who is the youngest male winner in tournament history?
Youngest male winner in tournament history. That's a tough one. Wow.
You should know this one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back here.
It's an American.
Oh, it's an American. Wow. How far back are we talking? Like the 70s? Like Jimmy Connors or something?
89. Okay, I'll give you a hint here.
Michael Chang? Michael Chang?
Yes.
I was trying to think right now if Michael Chang had won. I mean, we all remember that classic match against Lendl where he cramped up, and underhand serve. We all remember that match. I was trying to think if he won that tournament, though, in my head. Yeah, so, yeah. All right. And good trivia is I played against, back in the junior days when I was playing just some small little tournaments, I played against Michael Chang's cousin, Jerry Yu. So shout out to Jerry Yu. I don't know what you are nowadays, but I'm pretty sure I got double bageled by him. Yeah, but I remember my cousin, Jerry Yu. I remember him telling me that. So 0-0, baby.
Wow. That's pretty interesting trivia for us. But I think that's where we are. And again, some good matches today. I was able to watch, and I did the women's one too, where I picked Sabalenka to win it all. But very interesting. One thing I noticed in the women's bracket was you had all these weird matchups, like Iga playing against Ostapenko, and she had never beaten Ostapenko. She's 0-6 against Ostapenko.
That's a first round matchup?
No, it's not the first round. She could potentially face her in the third round, fourth round.
I was going to say it.
What I was telling in the podcast there was it's very rare to see a player of that stature, like a top 5 player. I mean, she actually is the 5th right now. I mean, usually she was in the top 2 or 3. To lose to another player 0-6, and a player who is like, she's like Ostapenko is like 20th ranked. And I don't know if you see that in the men. I mean, how many times have you seen like a 15th or 20th ranked male dominate a top 5 player like that?
Yeah, you don't see that.
I've never seen it. It's one of those things which is very I would say very mental. I mean, it's tough to put pulse on that one. So yeah. So that's where we are, Dan. I think this was good. I mean, it'll be some good tennis tomorrow. I'll hope to watch some of these things. I think some of these matches were canceled. The Alcaraz match was canceled, so no wonder he was in the stands for Nadal. But you'll also see some other players tomorrow. So it starts bright and early, and Memorial Day here for us. But I think it starts at 5 o'clock. So you should see some of those players. Like you'll probably see Korda, yeah, your guy
Yeah.
Korda, who you have going all the way to the 16. Yeah, playing against Darderi, who's another Italian. So you'll be able to, and then you have Rude also playing at 5 as well, and Alcaraz is playing at 6 o'clock in the morning. So
Wow.
yeah, and some of those matches will be there. Yep. All right. With that, do you have any trivia or anything that you have, any last minute stuff you
No
want to
last minute
talk
thoughts.
about?
Like I said, I just think it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to seeing how Djokovic holds up over the fortnight, as we call it. Just because, like I said, he hasn't played much this year, and when he's played, he's often, unfortunately, fallen victim first round. So really, it's just how his body's going to hold up. So I think I'm going to look forward to watching him and his matches. Hopefully, he'll work out. With the time difference and the days, get to see a little bit of him over there. And then, like I said, hopefully we get a Sinner Alcaraz final. That's going to be the new rivalry. As you mentioned, watching the tribute today, it was amazing seeing those guys all out there together. It's just really touching and amazing that we had that great of tennis for that long. But we've only got one of them left, and he might be. Maybe this year could, depending on how he does in the Grand Slams, I think this year and how his body holds up, this could be it for Djokovic too. If he doesn't, I think, perform up to his standards this year, I don't think he's just gonna play just to play. I think he wants to get to the, at least the semis, or quarters and be competitive. So we'll see. Hopefully we get a little more out of him, but it was quite amazing to see that tribute today with the four of them up there on the court together.
Yeah, and I think for Djokovic, on his side, he did say something. I think in a press conference, it's like I said 25 in 25 or something like that. So it's 2025. Can he get to number 25? And I think he seems very driven. I mean, there's something about these players. I mean, something about these players who are probably the greatest of the all. I mean, they have some energy that'll kind of move them. And you actually thought Djokovic was all done when he was playing the gold medal in France last year, and somehow, somewhere, he found that energy to beat Alcaraz in the final. So we all know like what he's capable of. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. And like I said, he's got a pretty easy bracket until he gets to play Medvedev. But you haven't heard about Medvedev in the recent time. I mean, I haven't seen him winning a tournament.
Yeah,
in the
in a
long
few
time.
years.
Even like a regular, even like an ATP 1000 title. So I do think that Djokovic definitely coming on the heels of this Geneva win, which has also happened to be on a clay court. He could be primed to make that push. I mean, I think, like you said, the only thing which could put some doubt in him would be that playing those 7 matches and best of 5s and not best of 3s. That's probably the only thing. So
All right.
All right, this is good. This is a long one, 40 minutes, but it's French Open, and it was great to get there. So let me stop the recording and have a good night.
All right,
Thank
merci.
you. Merci. That was good.
Thanks for listening. Primo and Dan will be back soon.